Hello again everyone, sorry it's been a minute. I've been thinking about what to post next, but this comment from the last vlog really tipped the scales. You can find it by clicking on the banner above. It's probably just a good troll, but if you look at what the person is actually saying, it actually makes a lot of sense. Many surfers will talk about crowded spots, think snapper or trestles and barley. A quick YouTube search will easily show footage of crazy lineups. What surfer likes it when they can't get waves in a session, no matter what their level is? And that's actually at the core of my argument about wave pools, which I'm about to try and explain. Want to hear why wave pools could actually help lineups and not make them worse? Then keep watching.
I'm James Davis, and I've been a skydiver for over 20 years, jumping and competing all around the world. In the last 18 months, I've been surfing at the Wavepool in Bristol to see if wave pools can do for surfing what wind tunnels did for skydiving. I wanted to see what would happen if an average surfer trained at the Wavepool for a year, if they could learn to get barreled, sharing all the mistakes, learning points and experiences along the way.
This is some footage of a massive swell that hit on the final day of the Fuerteventura trip. This was my first proper surf trip since I've been training at the Wavepool. Unfortunately, this was the only day I could find a cameraman. On other days, there was way better conditions and surfs at other spots, which would have made for better surf footage. But ironically, for this discussion, the footage couldn't have been better. The normal point breaks we've been surfing all week were closing out. So what do? Found a sheltered spot that we thought might work. It seems that every other beginner and intermediate surfer on the island was also on the same page. Before any of you start judging me and pointing out the obvious, the waves in this vlog that I'm surfing aren't very big at all. They do illustrate the comment that Jonathan Walmsley so kindly made in the prior vlog's comments. From watching the footage, a keen eye might notice the following points. Number 1, the number of people out. Number 2, the lineup and etiquette. Number 3, the number of waves caught in the session. Number 4, the board I'm using. And 5, well, you're not going to find this from looking at the video, but my overriding feeling from the session. Let's start with the first point, the number of people out. It may just be one person's opinion, but even with my limited ocean surfing experience, it seems to be a direct correlation between wave size and the number of surfers willing to paddle out. This was by far the most crowded spot I surfed all week. It was easy to access, easy to paddle out, and most importantly, the waves were of a size that every surfer seems to be comfortable with. It's not a moan, it's just an observation. Without stating the obvious, it seems one of the biggest risks for any spot is having more surfers than the spot can handle, people getting frustrated and the vibe being ruined. Number 2, the lineup. I'm sure everyone out there has access to the internet and has some form of understanding about surfing etiquette, but in reality it was absolute carnage. It's probably more to do with low level experience and skills than malice. As I can tell you from personal experience, when you have limited experience, everything takes longer, you're more hesitant, you never really know when to go or not, and eventually just think, screw it, gotta go. Number 3, number of waves caught in the session. I think in this session I only caught 2 to 3 waves, and that was before the tide dropped out and the spot stopped working. Compare that to today, where I surfed 3 sessions at the Wavepool, which equated to 45 waves, as the sessions were not all full. At the other spots I surfed during the week, I also caught 2 or 3 waves in a 2 to 2.5 hour session, but this was due to learning, not overextending myself, taking time to learn about the break and staying out of people's way, i.e. learning the lineup. I also came in with huge smiles and loved each and every session, despite the low wave count. Number 4, the board. For those with eagle eyes, you'll see that I'm not using the green 6-foot Tomo Shapes board you've seen me in the other videos using. I'm actually using the Mark Phipps 1 Bad Egg mid-length, which I kept for this very reason. What's my thinking here? Because being in the ocean is a totally different element to that of a controlled environment of a wave pool. There are no markers on the wall just to paddle up for reference, letting you know where the perfect spot to set up with will be. Getting into the ocean was never going to be about what I could do on the wave. It was back to white belt status and trying to learn some key fundamentals which I absolutely have no issue with at all. I knew this before I went on the trip, and after a couple of surfs it seemed very clear that navigating and getting around the lineup being able to decide whether the wave was good or not to go on, whether it was my wave or someone else's, turning and getting going all took a very long time. Foam was definitely my friend. Trying to catch the bombs, trying to work on my turns or get barreled just wasn't the priority. I wasn't even close to what I was trying to do. My main issue was catching waves and getting some form of comfort and experience in my new surroundings. Using a bigger board with more foam allowed me to get around the lineup that much easier and maximise my time by focusing on the fundamentals. Number 5. Overriding feeling. What do you think the feeling was in this session when I left the water? I'm rarely a negative person, but I was not overly stoked. It's always great to have been in the water, but when the spot stopped working as the tide dropped out, with all the other surfers, it became a total mess. Quick question, does it make sense for a surfer to spend hundreds of pounds and hours travelling for waves like this, when there is a better option? I totally appreciate the variable conditions of any surf trip will always be there. My point is that surfing in the ocean isn't free for a lot of people. And if you are flying or driving all day, spending money on hotels, food and travel, just to have experiences like this, and spending money on 2 or 3 wavepool sessions starts to look like a better use of time and resources. In my humble opinion, all these new surfers who are urban dwellers and who are supposed to ruin surfing aren't going to rush miles for crappy surf, dealing with hassling and having a bad experience. I'd argue that all those surfers at the busy days, when the waves are small, are going to decrease because wave pools will provide a better alternative for enjoyment and progression. Sure, the sea is the best place to surf and wave pools are training tools, but they are also way more accessible for people who aren't fortunate enough to live near the sea. Just look at my story. Never in a million years would I have thought that I could have progressed from surfing a beginner foamy to getting anywhere near a barrel in less than a year. That's 100% down to training at the wave pool. Now the discussion doesn't really stop here, because someone could say, what happens when people who have been using wave pools get good? What about the people that are bitten by the bug and are going to make the time commitment? Are they going to ruin my local break? But let me ask you, do you really think that someone who's achieved a small bit of skill in the wave pool can safely paddle out in any kind of decent waves? There will always be someone that paddles out to dangerous spots beyond their skill set, but for me, Darwin principle springs to mind. Even if you think you're better than you are, the ocean doesn't mess around. You're going to get a rude reality check. And then there's the local element. One risk to surfing from introduction of wave pools I do subscribe to is from the change in type of character for new people entering the sport, and the risk that surf culture will change. But that's a different discussion for a different day. And this point isn't necessarily all downside, as change inherently has good and bad parts to it. If there was one takeaway from this vlog, it is that no wave pool warrior like myself is going to waltz into a break and cause any drama or ruin anything for the established surfers. I'm trying to live the dream, spending as much time as possible surfing and getting in the water, but I just can't get to the ocean regularly at the moment with all my life commitments. Just look how long the gap has been between the last vlog and this one, but I can drive to the wave pool easily enough. In the next vlog, we're going to get back on track with the learning, back to training at the wave pool, and start getting some in-person coaching using debriefs of some recent sessions. As ever, I'll be sharing all the golden nuggets of information that I find. Until next time, enjoy your surfing wherever you are.